So just walking towards the Albert Docks, and I spotted this really interesting statue of the horse. And this is the Liverpool Carter's Working Horse Monument, and it's called Waiting. It's a really interesting sculpture, and it's by somebody called Judy Boyd. The monument commemorates 250 years service of the working horses of Liverpool, hauling goods between the docks and warehouses. The horses worked in all weathers. During the Second World War, Liverpool carters and their horses ensured the flow of food and fuel through the port. Yeah, so this is a really interesting bit of history, learning about how the port and the dock used to work with these workhorses and the carters. So the next interesting piece of history or artifact is this propeller, which is part of the Lusitania propeller from 1909. And this is actually part of the Maritime Museum, which you can see is literally there over the dock, which is a fantastic museum, really interesting. This propeller was one of 4 from passenger liner RMS Lusitania. She sailed between Liverpool and New York until she was torpedoed by the German submarine U-20 on May the 7th, 1915, with a loss of 1,191 lives. So this is a really interesting part of Liverpudlian history because it's such a seafaring city. There's so much maritime history here. We are now passing from Pier Head on the other side of the lock to Albert Dock, which has got a lot of museums and historical parts of the city. So coming into the Albert Docks now, with the iconic columns. Very stylish. Wow, look at that sculpture made of rocks. Fluorescent coloured rocks. And here you've got the Tate Museum. Very cool. And you can see there are some barges on the dock, some quite nice boats on the other side, yachts. Very stylish, very historic part of the city. And here is the Tate Gallery, Liverpool. Very stylish museum, gallery. And just walking down the colonnade around the dock now. Good selection of shops they've got on the Albert Dock. Barber shop, fish and chips. We've got coffee shops. Yeah. Can see people are really enjoying themselves here. Enjoying the atmosphere. Souvenir shops. Picture shops. liverpoolpictures.co.uk looks good. Confectionery shop. Key Confectionery from 1988. Also getting involved with the Beatles. And we've got the Colonnade Apartments. Wow, can you imagine living in an apartment here? That would be very cool. Probably some of the most expensive flats in the whole of the city. So interestingly, a lot of the shops, cafes and restaurants on the Albert Dock are individual establishments. They're not chains. There are some chains, but the majority are independent businesses. So it feels really unique to Liverpool and not just like lots of chains that are all the same. It's got its own personality and its own character, which is really cool. I think it gives it a more interesting feel. So we are now leaving the Albert Docks. Really beautiful part of the city, fascinating place, and we're walking towards the Anglican Cathedral, which I can just see on the horizon. I think it's probably about a 10-minute walk from here. Just spotted another sculpture, another horse sculpture, very impressive, and this one's called The Great Escape by Edward Renshaw. Don't know what it's in reference to, but it is a very cool sculpture. So we're now on Nelson Street, which is the heart of Chinatown. We are heading in the direction of the Anglican Church, but this is the main drag of Chinatown, which is always interesting to see. And if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the oldest Chinatowns in the whole of the UK, one of the most well established. So I think it's one main street, to be honest, of Chinese establishments, Chinese restaurants. I think there's a Chinese supermarket as well. And yeah, you got the famous gate at the end of the road, which is very impressive. Yeah, this looks like a really good place. Yeah, so if you are into Chinese food, this is definitely a place that you should check out. Got a really good selection of restaurants here. And here you can see the gate in a bit more detail. Wow, it's really nice, all these restaurants. Yeah, so you can see the Chinese gate, really impressive, a lot of detail on the design, and on this side you can see the statues of the Chinese dragons. Very cool. So we're now at the Liverpool Anglican Cathedral, and this is the largest religious building or construction anywhere in the UK. And you've got a small building here in a temple structure that looks like a mausoleum or something related to the cathedral. So this is locked up at the moment and doesn't look open to the public. But very elegant temple style building. Yeah, so the cathedral is very imposing, very heavy, thick-set architecture. Yeah, so you can see the entrance is very impressive to the cathedral. It's got this big gate. And the steps leading up to the entrance as well are very well made. So even though the cathedral's closed, you can still walk around and have a good look at the exterior. And I find it interesting that even though it was built in the 20th century, they've gone for this almost Gothic style in the architecture. So I suppose you'd call it a neo-Gothic style, but it actually works really well and fits in well with the surrounding area. So you can see they've paid attention to detail on the design of the church or the cathedral. They've got parts like the stained glass windows, which are quite Gothic features, and even gargoyles. Really interesting. And here you can see the main entrance And the imposing statue with stained glass windows. Wow, it is a massive building. So this is called Berry Street, and it's quite a stylish street actually. I think technically this is still part of Chinatown because the sign is also translated into Chinese. Yeah, you can see on that street as well, Back Night Street. Yeah, so interesting pubs, bars. I did come here about a month ago, and on a Saturday night this place is humming, thronging with people, as you can imagine. A lot going on. So at the end of Berry Street we've got this place that is known locally as the bombed out church. I think it was bombed in the Second World War and it's still derelict. I think they left it as a monument to war, but a large part of the facade is still intact, still looks quite good, and it's got this garden around the back as well. So you can see from here the bombed out church has been turned into a venue, a bar, and it looks like a really interesting place to go for a drink. So the shell of the church is still intact, but the interior has been destroyed. I think you can see that. And now it's a really alternative, interesting place to go for a drink or something to eat. So right now I'm in front of the bombed out church. As you can see, the exterior has still maintained its original design and the interior is bombed out and derelict, but they've turned this into a venue where you can go for a drink, have something to eat, or sit in the garden with your friends and enjoy the atmosphere. So it's a really dynamic, different part of the city, and it's interesting that they decided not to refurbish the church. They've left it as a monument to war, and they've turned it into a venue for people who want to go out and spend time in the evening. So this is a really cool, interesting point in the centre of Liverpool. And just for reference, the bombed out church is on St Luke's Place, and this is the entrance here. So we're now on Renshaw Street, just around the corner from the church, and we've come into this Asian street food market, although it is indoors. Yeah, it's just called Renshaw Street Food Market, and I think it's a big mix of Chinese and Japanese and Thai, all sorts of different types of Asian food, so it looks really interesting. Oh, we've got Mexican food here as well. Wow, really cool. So Renshaw Street is a really interesting street. It has a lot of Chinese and Asian restaurants, but it's also got a good selection of Irish pubs, which is a really good combination, I think. Yeah, Liverpool's obviously got a really strong connection with Ireland. People from Ireland have emigrated over to Liverpool for hundreds of years, and obviously it's one of the biggest port cities that's closest to Ireland in England, so it's a natural stopping place for people who wanted to emigrate to England, but also people who wanted to emigrate, you know, further afield to Australia and America and Canada and places like that. So yeah, you can really see some of that Irish culture reflected in Renshaw Street and the Irish pubs. So it's a very stylish street. You can see the old with the new again. So in the background you've got a brand new building, and then you've got this derelict building which is probably going to be renovated at some point. And right here is one of the main Irish pubs. It's called the Liffey. Very classic Irish style. This right next to the Liffey is called the Grand Central Irish Village. So I think it's this club as well, Nelly Folly's bar. And yeah, I think at night this is quite busy. Don't know what there is down here. So this is the next Irish pub, the Blarney Stone. This has got live music and karaoke. So we've got a bit of a Dublin vibe going on in this part of the town. Live sport as well. Looks like quite a lively bar. Very cool. Karaoke. Right, so I think this has to be the biggest Irish pub in Liverpool, maybe ever in the UK. It's absolutely huge. It's called the Celtic Corner. You've got this really impressive pub called Walker's Warrington Ale. Oh, actually, I think it's called the Vines. And then right next to it, you've got the Adelphi Hotel, which is probably the most well-known hotel in Liverpool, I think. One of the most traditional. Yeah, so it's 7 o'clock on a Thursday evening, and it's kind of the end of July, so it's quite busy. City is humming, I would say. A lot going on. So we've just stopped for a short break. I think we're going to go and check out some of the Irish pubs. I think it would be a good thing to do. It's a good time for a drink. Liverpool's so incredible. It's got such a good energy, such a good atmosphere, and reminds me a little bit of the centre of Dublin. A lot of live music venues, a lot of singing, karaoke, which gives a really good atmosphere to the city centre. So now on Charlotte Street, more Irish pubs. A whole street of pubs. Nice.
I wasn't in chastity like you now. Singing, always singing.
Yeah? Cool. And finally we've got Wetherspoons.
Another one. I think I've counted like 8.
This one's called the Richard John Blacken. Wow, big Wetherspoons. So we're just walking down a big shopping street. We're outside the Clayton Square shopping centre, but it's 7:30 already, so obviously all the shops are closed. Yeah, so a bit more off the beaten track now. I think this is more for the locals as opposed to tourists. Just as you come to the end of Liverpool 1, you come onto Church Street, which is another main shopping thoroughfare in the centre of Liverpool. So it's been a fantastic afternoon in Liverpool. I've really enjoyed getting to know it a bit better, discovering the sights and the sounds. It's an absolutely beautiful city with a fantastic culture. One of the bits that I enjoyed the most was getting to know the Albert Dock, seeing all the different museums and artefacts, parts of the Liverpool history. But also it's been great seeing about the music culture, the Beatles, and all of the history that comes with Liverpool as well, related to music, has been fantastic. So it's been a really good day, and I 100% recommend coming to visit Liverpool. It's a beautiful city with an incredible culture.